Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Dave Maslach talking about reciprocity.com, the sharing economy proofreading platform that I'm trying to build. The E is spelled with a 3. And in this particular video, I really wanted to talk about at what point should you quit something. You often hear about this saying, winners never quit and quitters never win, right? So this is the famous Vince Lombardi saying that you might have heard, or people have repeated it many times over. I'm going to get into what do I mean by quitting. I'm going to get into some of the science that I think is interesting, the research that I think is interesting. And then finally, if you stay until the end, I'm going to tell you how you probably should view quitting. And it's going to be a different way that you have never thought about quitting before. So this is all part of my Thesis Help series. I'm putting this out to help senior undergraduate students and graduate students get through doing research. And quitting is a really important thing, and it's an important skill to learn throughout the process of when you actually do some sort of research, or you get a job, or you get a career, or you get relationships, you smoke, right? All of these things are sort of moments in your life where you think about quitting. At what point should you continue on with graduate school? Should you quit graduate school? Does it make sense to continue with graduate school? These are really important questions that we often are tempted with, we often think about. I've worked on research projects that have occurred over a decade. And I've spent a tremendous amount of work on the particular projects that I'm thinking about. And these projects, they take a lot of effort. And over those years, you definitely think about quitting along the way. This is my own experience. And so I actually have done research and I've thought about quitting in the perspective of learning from failure. And this is some of the interesting things that I have learned throughout the process. So one way to think about quitting is in terms of optimal stopping rules. So what does that mean? That is a moment where you take a rational calculation, you pursue a certain trajectory, you pursue something for as long as you possibly can, and then you see what the value is left over. And if there's any value left over, it should be worth the sort of cost of continuing on with that particular trajectory. So you should eventually run out of any sort of value, and at that moment where the value is going to cost you, it's going to be less than what the cost actually is to continue on with that particular activity, then you should quit it. That is the general idea behind it, right? So smoking's really easy to calculate whether you should stop, and that is probably you should actually stop pretty quickly. Most people actually will continue on, and the reason they'll continue on smoking for a long time, for a period of time after they know that they should stop, right? Most people know at the beginning is that they're getting some sort of benefit, some immediate reward from smoking. It's some sort of smoothing smoothing feeling that you get. It's an emotional response. It's a social response, all these kind of things. So you can continue on smoking until that point where you start to recognize that at some point, then your life expectancy is going to start bumping into your life expectancy. So then people will quit. A majority of people will quit after a certain amount of time because they start making these rational calculations of, it just doesn't make sense anymore to continue on smoking. It's going to be harmful for me, and it's not going to, the benefit I'm getting from this sort of smoothing or social, this immediate reaction is not going to be worth my time to continue to smoke because it's really going to hurt my life expectancy. So it's really easy to calculate the stopping rule. And I should point out, the stopping rules, every single thing that you do in your life, you're going to quit. We're all going to die. So that's a really important thing to think about. We're all going to quit something at some point. It's just a matter of deciding when you're going to quit that particular thing. Some people continue on for a long time. They do something through their entire life and they never quit until they die, right? Other people will pursue something, they'll try something, and they'll quit within a week. And these are all decisions we make along the way of how long should I continue on with this particular thing. it is often really difficult. There are moments where it becomes really difficult to understand whether you should quit something. And the moment when it becomes really difficult to understand whether you should quit is when there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of ambiguity about the costs and benefits of pursuing that particular action, right? So the action, the benefit of pursuing some career, for example, or continuing on with a relationship, it's often really difficult to calculate. You can't forecast. We have limited information. In fact, we have no information about the future of what's going to happen next, and we can't project what it's going to be to sort of stick with somebody in a relationship for a very, very long time. The only thing you do know is the costs and the benefits that you have from the past, and you're trying to predict into the future based on the stuff that you already know, the stuff that you've already invested into that particular relationship and the benefit that you got from that relationship. It is really difficult to make this prediction into the future, and we often don't know what it's going to be. The same goes with, and it becomes even trickier with education and when you're in graduate school. And I want you to think about this. At this moment, when you're in graduate school, when you're in undergraduate school, whatever you're doing, it's going to be a grind. There's no benefit at that moment when you are doing the graduate school, other than that sheer instantaneous joy that you feel throughout the graduate school process when you're learning something. You're like, oh, man, this is amazing. My mind is blowing. But that doesn't happen all of the time. In fact, it is entirely a long grind, and you start looking around and other people are doing this and other people are doing that, and you feel very, very isolated. This grind is going to get to you, and you're only seeing the immediate cost of the thing that you're pursuing. You cannot, and you're looking at your past behaviors, you're making a projection, you're just burrowing in, and it's getting more costly over time. You can't make a projection on the future of what it's actually going to be in the future. You can't make that projection. It's a really difficult thing to do. The same with any sort of calculation that you do in a firm or a company where you're making a research calculation, and whether you should do some sort of R&D project. It is a cost at the beginning. When you are investing in that R&D project, it is entirely in a cost, and you don't know what the benefit is going to be in the future. It's often really difficult to project those things, particularly if you're doing something that's novel. And when you're doing research, that is novel. When you're doing graduate studies, the thing that you're doing is novel. Nobody else has done it before. And some people do more novel things and other people do less novel things, but it's still something that nobody else has ever done before. It's really difficult to calculate that. And the other thing that's really difficult to calculate is we often, once we pursue this particular trajectory, we make that calculation, we do it and we stick with it. We look back and we're like, well, you know, I shouldn't have done that, because look at all the opportunity cost of doing that particular thing. I've lost out on all of this opportunity to do that particular thing. Look at all that time that I spent to do that thing. I've invested so much time. I could have done 10 other things in replace of that. But guess what? That ignores the lessons you learned along the way. It doesn't calculate the costs of learning and the benefits that you get of learning along the way. There is this thing called absorption of capacity. Dan Leventhal, Wesley Cohen had pointed this out. They are now, because of this concept that they pointed out back in the 1990s or the early 1990s, they are now extremely famous economists that pointed and solved this particular problem of why people pursue these kind of trajectories like this. And what they resolved, or one of the things that they resolved, is that there is an absorption capacity. When people learn something, when firms learn something and they invest in something, they are learning a skill, they're recognizing, they're gaining a capability, an ability to learn and assimilate and recognize new opportunities and turn them into sort of profitable opportunities in the future. You are learning that particular skill when you're in graduate school. That is a big and important thing that you're learning. You're learning to recognize skill. You're learning to recognize opportunities, and that ability to convert things into future opportunities and profitable opportunities in the future. You couldn't do that unless you went through that entire grind and that process. And here's the thing that they pointed out, and here's the thing that I really want to stress. The more that you invest in your learning, the more that you invest in yourself and build yourself and build all of those capabilities and knowledge capabilities and absorption capacity capabilities, the more you're going to benefit. It becomes easier and easier. It is cumulative to gain all of this knowledge over time. Knowledge is vastly cumulative. You start to learn things and recognize things over the long run, and you can put things together that other people couldn't put together. This is the reason why learning is highly correlated with job performance. It's highly correlated with people being entrepreneurs. And there's two ways of learning I'm pointing out with entrepreneurs. They either go to a new experience, they get immersed in something. It's not a classroom experience. They just learn something along the way that they haven't seen before and other people haven't seen, and they're able to put things together that other people haven't been able to do. And that's all because of this source of capacity. The other thing that is really incredibly important, and I stress this because I'm a professor of innovation, classroom learning has a tremendous amount of benefit. You are learning things at a highly accelerated rate that other people took years and years and years to learn along the way. It is highly condensed material, and you are condensed in learning these things. You are gaining an absorptive capacity, so in the future you can put these things together and learn more things and do more things and create more profitable opportunities for yourself in the future. So, that being said, the way that you should be thinking about quitting is not necessarily, this is a terrible thing for me to quit, or I should continue on with this particular thing, but think about it as an option. Think about whatever you're doing as an option. Think about, if I invest in this, I'm going to get an option is the right, but not the obligation to do something in the future. It is going to give you the right, but not the obligation to do something in the future. And that is going to help you out immensely in the future. You learn a particular skill in graduate school. You learn how to do statistics. It's going to give you the opportunity in the future to be able to understand statistics that other people couldn't understand in the past. This is an immensely important thing for you to understand. You should frame the quitting opportunities as moments of growth, not as moments of I'm missing out on all of this wasted, and I have all of these wasted resources that have gone and I've wasted all of this stuff. No, that's not the case. You have learned a tremendous amount that has allowed you to recognize things in the future, and there's tremendous benefits to being able to recognize those things in the future. And you just you can't calculate what that cost is or what that benefit is at this moment. It's really difficult to calculate that. So you should be recognizing that this is a moment for opportunity growth. Okay? That's the important thing to point out with this. Quitting is a good thing sometimes. Quitting often allows you to get into another area, into something else, to try something else. You have opportunity costs that allow you to do something else, but sticking with something allows you to get some sort of options in the future so that you can pursue something else in the future. It allows you to get an option to pursue something else in the future. It's a really important thing to think about. So that's really what I wanted to do, is point out that quitting is so incredibly important. It is a part of everybody's life. We're all going to quit along the way. So it's not just that winners never quit and quitters never win. That's not the case, right? Everybody quits along the way. It's just determined. You have to think about when you want to quit. And sometimes quitting is really beneficial for you, and sometimes it's not. You have to give some really deep thought about whether you actually want to invest in something. And investing in something, particularly with education, with a research trajectory, with whatever you're doing that has a high cost at the beginning, it's going to be really difficult to calculate that. And you want to make sure that you don't want to quit too early, because there's going to be benefit from the thing that you're doing. So you have to really understand whether that relationship that you have, should you quit that relationship? Sometimes it's yes, the answer is yes, and sometimes it's no, because you're not recognizing that you're growing and building this relationship that allows you to have a wonderful relationship in the future. Sometimes with graduate school or a research trajectory, you might want to continue on working with something even though it's a grind, because there's going to be tremendous opportunities from the thing that you're doing right now. All right. So if you like this video, make sure that you do the old cha-ching. You can you can also watch some old videos, add some comments if you like this particular video. You can do that. And you can check out, I'm doing this for my reciprocity project. The E is spelled with a 3. I'm trying to do this to help graduate students. Eventually, if it ever becomes profitable, I really want to give graduate scholarships away based on the profits that are generated from it. This is my ultimate goal, and that's what I'm trying to do. So hopefully you like this video. And that's all I wanted to say. Take care, have a good day, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you on the next video. Bye.